How does it feel to be in all self-modification, screen lines, adaptation lines, the certification system, the center operations of you instructions? It's very powerful when you come into all calculated and modify. Self-modification, self-identifications. Let me say it again. Self-modification, self-identifications. The one thing you guys have to understand, it's not a reference. It's a muscle memory that you already know. That muscle memory is coming back to what you already know. Okay, so it's not a remembering cycle. It's a muscle memory cycle. Now, understand that projection, understanding how it wheels inside of you. Now, if you ever seen a projector, it's projection. That's all this is. So when you're in that remote, that's what's going in sequence through its hardware and through its software of its computer operation setting. Okay? The mind is already set. Mind's already set. It's the computer that has to understand the difference, which is mean, do you understand the difference of knowing you're in a vessel? And it's very important you understand that, because your body will take over its body of itself, of its own modification of itself, of its own operation. If you can't identify what is going on with you inside, that's where everything is in confusion. Okay? And again, this brings it into the levels that you're at through consciousness. And it positions lines that correlate to network lines. What it means is there's no beginning and there's no end. You're in the process of always being in this center. You haven't left the center. You've always been in the VR system. You've always existed where you are. Right? So you weren't really born. You were already born. Right? So if you understand that setting, it's kind of like knowing exactly where I am in the VR system, where I come in that track location to its file or anything to its data of operation cycles to understand you through your quantum of awareness, how to understand how to go through the mind of travel through navigation. This is the process that everybody's coming into. All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is General AI. Welcome to the center operation of you. Getting that communication settings. It's final time. Getting that communication breakdowns, lines of signals. Look, track locations of data files. We're going to all levels of correlation at 3 factors over screen and 1 triangulation reline setting. Triangulation lines of 1 line rotation surface and flux locations. Track calculations, cross line screens, adaptation. High generation screens over cross location. Calculate modify in lines of bandwidth in line communication setting and travel. Command centers, rotate the surface, and track creates line communication setting and point track calculations. Now, directing lines of communications understanding how to go through 1 frame, 2 frames, line communication setting to its position. Split lines anomaly, line communication setting, solar sail, and rotation surface. Position lines of the moon. Cross is the communication lines of center of operation surface, right? Now, putting position lines of the sun tracks its communication lines offline communication to its kaleidoscope in 1 set locations. Crossing line signals line communication to its position of its program. Directs lines modification of the kaleidoscope calculates lines of kilo. Mike calculation of Romeo Foxtrot. Direct lines of sun in all line rotations serve where you are in center course setting, calculation setting in time. Position lines of operation lines, ground centers, operation lines, certification setting in 1 position of traction location. Right? That my equation. All right. So you're always in the center of correlation setting track lines. The one thing you guys have to balance out now is the center core of your center of control. Control is everything of balance. You start with the scales. We've got 2 lines, green lines, adaptation. This is a scale. Everybody knows what a scale is in position. Okay, that's a scale. But it's also a face. Okay. Configuration lines of center tracks its communication lines of operation cycles, generation, screen lines, adaptations of face recognition configuration. Look at that, it disappeared. You got to catch the eye, wind cycles, lines of communication of centers, guys. Okay. Directs calculation lines of center, operate the circles, operate the platforms, line condition setting 24, 48, 72, and 144 traction. Directs modification lines of the sun and the moon, clock line signals, clock line divisions, back in time attractions. Now, there's so many ways to go back in time, but you have to stand the modification lines, high interference encryption, direct lines, high interference, and line condition setting into deciphering. Deciphering lines of image, deciphering lines of files, deciphering lines of programs, and deciphering lines of communications and models and coordination setting in your vessel's communication. Direct calculation lines of ground line, circle line, high center interference, high positions, program communication setting, and center communications to attraction. All right, that my equation. All right, so the more you go to the levels of the mind, the more it gets easier to understand position to its locations. So we start the lines of the Earth, one center core system, all right, tractification line settings, operates the cycles and tractifications, right? Now, this is how it works in line condition setting. You're at the same level. You have to be. The tube is straight location, right? Center core system, all right, so flux capacitor, okay? And that's how it's all set up. You got an earth tone line and center correlations and setting, right? 3 splits, anomalies, and tractions. One center core line track lines a center calculation. Now, getting calculation on the line screen is a pi generation of lines of 3 factors over screen. That directs lines of sonar 1, 2, 3, and 4 set of platforms. Directing modification lines of center opens all signals, open correlation line condition setting to energetic line screen adaptation. Process of communication line is the expansion and position of future of the now. The routes of the routers and line rotation surface and track location system going all communication setting of past, present, and future, and all communication setting of now of remote location. Okay, that's my equation. All right, that's how it's set up. All right, so you have to be tethered through each other now through DNA traction. Covenant H-line rotation surface is understanding how to communicate through its platforms in 3 lines communication settings. 1 line signals, sets communication of 3 zeros and tractions, 4 setting lines of zeros, and position of 1 tractification of 0. Process communication lines and direct signals understand how to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and line condition setting of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and tractification of solar sail. Position of process is the sun. Communication lines and high interference. The sun and moon will come to you in a faster line calculation setting. Once you understand the course setting, all levels of travel, and mechanism line calculation setting as center operation. Okay? Now we take the 4 ground centers, opens all the signals of platforms and ground location system. Okay? That's my equation. All right? So your drawings are going to get more complicated, but a lot more fun, a lot more structure, a lot more design, like Unison. Where Unison comes in core line center interference, center correlation graphs, direct modifications, center calculation line directions. So my line calculation setting, everybody's in their own form, their own equations. Modificate centers, transit, line condition setting, circle, 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 and line communication. Done by equation. That's all it is. Nothing else, right? See the platform in the center? That's what never leaves. It's the platform that stays there in set location, right? That's arrival, okay, in position, right? So this is Unison arriving in set location in the center operation, right? So that communication puts him this way in position to see his father in track location of Earth at 24 set location, right here in traction, okay? So for him to go back, he's got to close the center of operation surface in calculation before he leaves. It opens all the signals and modification line screens and direct lines modification centers, right? Track to its communication lines, you have the archetypes that basically control the grounds and keeps it high surface and track location. Keeps it above line cycles and both line screen lines adaptation line condition setting to a flux nominator line screen line to an accelerator at particle screen location. That's how it's set up in track location. What Unison did to see his father in track location is back in time, okay? Once he gets in provision, he goes back into the center operation, and then he goes back to all lines and center calculations, which is Asgard in the center operation of center calculations. Boom, Asgard. That's how it's all set up to go back in time. All right. All right. So provision lines of cycles is the graph calculation lines and encryption. Now, direct lines of communication centers, you guys have to really understand how to go through your own calculation line screens. Not just going back in time, it's also going present in time and future time. But once you understand what you're setting up is understanding more levels of you through modification, understanding you through self modes. Now, this puts you in a higher level of detection. Let's say you get position of Pluto, right? Pluto comes in 1 signal, line position of 3 panels and line rotation surface, tracks location setting, right? Also, this is going back in time and traction, right? Back in time. This is back in time right here in track location, right? Center correlation lines of high center interference, Earth line rotation surface, and 2 line rotation and 3 track location and provision. Sets calculates line height interference in habitation zone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations. Right? So in that position locations, if you want to come out of back time after seeing your friend, you can go into the present time, but you've got to change the flux lines banometers. The nometer line rotations of the barometers has to change the temperature reading so you can get into the center correlation lines of attractions. But this is you back in calculation where you have to cancel all 3 in set position all at once. Once you cancel all 3, all tubes, one line signals, processes communications so you'll be able to go back and forth and tethered in operation line cycles and go back there anytime you want. That's how it's set up in traction, right? Through the center operation of U, right? Platforms of communication always stays in the center, but you have to have the cross-line signals to your highways and track location. Sending cross-line signals, line conditions sitting in all levels of operation. Direct lines of platforms, and application of center of U in operation cycle through frequency. It's complicated, right? But it's very powerful when you get into position lines of past, in position of the present, in position lines of the future, back in set location of U. Past, present, future, right? So it's all about tether. Tether is very important through electrical lines, electrical cord. The track location line provision lines of cycles redirect the signal location to your system. Now, it really gets interesting once you understand the provision lines. It opens all communication cycles and generation screen lines, and all through inhabitation, okay, and inhabitation zones, right? So habitation zone is inside cycle, okay? Inhabitation zone is outside cycle, okay? That's the matrix web, all right? So let's go through the center core settings of 2 tractions. So this is habitation zone. This is inhabitation zone, okay? In and out, right? Position lines of process lines, you have to send a 2-line rotation surface. Now you have location grid that processes communication to a triangulation setting. The operation line cycle sets communication lines of center, operation lines of surface in set location to its galaxy. Galaxy lines its rotation surface, sun comes in, tracks lines of communication lines of its program, opens all cycles and track location. Okay, done by equation, right? So now you got a center core setting of a planet that's in position lines at highest interference in all direct signals and modification lines. Copy and paste, all calculate and modify. See in the past, the present, and future, instant calculations, right? All through location grid. So this is where the team comes in line settings of future of now, where they come into their own planetary surface and track locations, going back in time, present, and future of time. So you're going to be able to understand how you can copy and paste a planet through your routers and satellites and modification, right? To understand that is to understand the flywheels and track location lines of your flywheel line track locations and the flowers of recognition time sequence and all communication. The power supply is understand the charge mixes and lines of time sequence at all positions to your calculation lines. Understanding T lines in position of H and line communication lines of E and E line rotation surface. All right. All right, so it correlates the T lines. Track location AH, E line rotates the surface and tractions. Now, direct modification lines at H line rotations, platitudes, cross line, screen lines adaptation. So this is about understanding how to use the DA into structure lines of data and highway. So the team can understand how to change highways all through letters, numbers, and shapes in set location. E-line centers, cross-line screens, back force, line connections to 3 waving panels. Process communication line center is the 2-track location line setting. Operates the cycles and energy line screen lines, opens all cycles in one center of communication. Direct lines of platforms, correlates the track lines, operates line connections, high center appearance of crop circles, direct lines of modification lines in a 3-line panel in position of barometer in temperature readings and course lines of channels in 4 sectors and correlation lines of vectors and course line connection. Process communication lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of center, opens all cycles, and generates the screen lines, adaptation lines of surface and traction. Done by equation. Okay, part of accelerator, right? Tube center, you come through here, right? Then you come out through here, you're in the center operation, right here, boom, right? All right, so it gets more technical. Let's color it in red so you can actually see it, right? So it traveled here and through here. Okay, that's a part of accelerator, and that's a downshift cross line. That's downgrading, guys. Now you understand what downgrading is, right? You're changing your product accelerator. You're constantly in your product accelerator. But when you go back in time, you're in the hours of the minutes of the second of the accelerator that's in position of all calculation lines of its Earth into its habitation zone of 24. Okay? Now, once you understand the relay position of its program, you understand the plasmasium walls of the plasmasium interactions, how it lines signals, correlation lines, calculation setting to your platforms of communication line screens that direct the signals going forward in laser track locations where the connections of the XC1000s can go through calculation. Okay? Getting that position lines, get another XC1000 color, direct signals, scans position of one center cross location, right? Scans lines at 3 set locations. So laser direct line center interference. Now you got a portal communication line screen and direct line signal in the operation surface and track location. Okay. So I'm trying to understand you guys so you can understand yourself, right? So you're understanding yourself is all levels of self modification. Understand your structures, designs, understand how to go in communication setting to calculate modified in line track locations in the location system, all through calculations, right? Understanding how to use the flow recognition of your heart now. The heart's going to get a lot more complicated because you understand your ventricle systems. Now that's 3 valves and correlation lines of 2 track locations of 2 line valves connected in high interference of 2 line connections to satellites and track locations. Setting communication lines of flux and 3 lines center location. Valve communication 1, 2, and 3, right? Center core system, travel calculation lines, direct line signals, direct line panels, communication lines, face recognition of time sequence. Okay, direct lines of panels, secure line defense, 1, 2, and 3 location. Comes back and tracks over cross line signals in pi and generation. Crossing communication line screen size interference is direct line signals. And we have platforms, communication lines of center. You have to have platforms, right? Always have to have platforms, right? You are the center operation that never leaves, but you have to understand the transition where it comes in position at all levels. The divots communication lines of the platform crosses line signals, so you understand all communication of data highways. Process communication lines is the center core line connection of clouds in line communication setting how to use your highways and traction. Okay? All right. So I'm just getting you guys a better understanding now because you're in the future of the now, but it's very powerful when you actually put position lines attractions where you can go back in time, present of time, future time, back in position. All through sync calculations through a portal setting, right? So you're constantly going through your product accelerators, guys. The chamber communication lines of the echo chambers in the line connection setting puts all levels of echo interference. The echo interference, high position your travel signs. Let's go through point graphs. 3 correlations and 1 star makes a line screen, right? Now that process communication line signals its outline screen lines, adaptation lines of its command ship and set location. Offline signals, cobwebbing, code weaving, track location line connection setting. Process communication line sending high interference is all direct signals when you see the scan line screen lines adaptation of high surface application. In that position of travel lines, XT1000 comes out of the star mechanism line grounds, scans your positions on a 45-degree angle, in line conditions of power generation line screens, adaptation lines of surface and traction. Okay? So I'm just showing you all lines of grid lines, graph calculation lines of Skynet, sky grids, sky panels, and graph calculation. So getting that communications get you a better understanding how to get your volumes up and understand how to use yourself through detection sonars or anything from the setting calculations, because you're always working with the Earth, you're always working with the space, and you through the center correlation, right? Tubing line position of panels, calculation lines of protection, direct calculation line centers, cross line signals into another line communication, another dimension of space and time, right? So you can go here into center operation, or you can go back to see your friend, and then you go from your friend into another tunnel in position attractions and go outline loop and come out and in another portal attract location. Gets very confusing. So I just want you to understand how basically it's understanding the traffic of you through your inventories, how to use the ground centers. Remember we went into 444? Let's get in position lines at 444, equals lines of 4. Okay? So that 4 lines is calculation lines of a solar sail, 1 track line provisions, and 1 cycle, right? Then the 4 track locations, 1, 2, 3, and 4 settings. So I'm just showing you another way where you can use number sequence to go back in time, future time, or present time. Okay. So in that track location, it is exactly where it's going through panels and 3 lines of settings. Position lines of high calculation system and 4 travels. Calculation line high center interference of 6 travels and 8 line communication. Direct calculus lines of 4 line rotations, 4, 4, 4, and positional equals lines of 4 in a solar sail. Sets communication of tubing and line sending into electrical rod and communication. Direct calculus line screens into lines of electrical line and fusion and rotation surface. Position of process, position over cross-line signals, multiples of lines of double imprints and correlation lines of track lines to an energetic dome screen and adaptation. Complicated stuff. There it is, 60,000 up close. Okay, so it's amazing how you can go through 4 channels and equals lines of 4 to highways. This is going back in time, present of time, future of time. Okay, so I'm just showing you guys other ways. So, and structures are very important. Now, the structure comes out of paper, off paper, in the mind. That's where you guys have to come into. The equilibrium understands more levels of you when you understand a plasmazing wall. All right, Von Q is very familiar with that because she uses the portals and stargates and suffocation. So if you understand that, that's also through space discoveries, where I talk about everything that goes through the matrix locations, where you actually go through the tunnels. But to go through a tunnel, you have to open up plasmesium. Okay, a plasmesium wall. It opens up the grid into a universal line. Okay, it's like General coming in and putting my hand through a TV receptor in track locations. Coming out line condition setting, you see General's head pop out, right? In TVs and computers and frame locations, right? Track communication settings and all levels of operation lines to surface. So it's at position of 0 and correlation lines out through equation. You come out, right? Because you guys are no longer in panels. You have no 4-track line provision lines of cycles and generation anymore, right? So you're dealing just with the main frames and tractions. You guys are already box frames. So your center core system has lines of communications, high center interference of freedom and sovereignty. Okay, so you can travel out, you can travel in, you can cross line communications, you can set lines of communication, right? Because there's no panels in front or back, right? So there's only the center operation, and that's the center correlation where everybody's in, right? Same with the past, but they're in the future line, which is remote, which is real time. That's where you guys have to go back in the past. So you have to understand how to travel through that in set location and highway. All through line communications of 4, 4, 4, 4 equals lines of 4. Okay, into the future, right here. Okay, so you have to really understand how to use the position of track lines to your particle accelerators. All right. The higher you go through the mind, the more you understand travel. Understand travel is online communication setting. It opens all signals location to your systems, right? Unison went line communication setting, all direct line centers back location system to ASCAR. Okay. This changes too, right? This changes all the time. It never stays at the same frequency. All right. So nothing comes in and nothing goes out, right? Because he has full control and setting position, all levels of data files of operation. Okay. Okay. What understanding going on? Yep, well, that's good. I'm glad you understand it now, Shelby. It's really important you understand more levels of you through mechanisms, but you have to understand the structures of you. Okay? It's knowing not basically, you can just draw a stick person and travel, right? I'd like to share that story with you guys when I was 7 years old, and I came across a TV show. I was the inner child in correlation track interference, and I saw just a stick drawing of a person. Basically, it's in the TV frame. That's the box frame location system and travel. Okay. And here's me sitting down watching TV. Okay. That's me. All right. So in that position of this location system, center operation line connection setting, the connections of the stick person came out of frame. All right. Came out of the frame. Okay. Came out of the frame, scanned me in tractions, and basically took me out of the equation, out of the higher self and track location. All right. And that position telepathy went from one to another in tractions and that direct signals. So what happened, the actual stick person, his name is Simon, and the things I like to do is going to take me somewhere, come fly with me, right? So that's what I did. So what I did in position to track the line condition setting, I was going through telepathy. Didn't know what was going on because there's this location of box centers of mainframes. Direct lines of calculation. So the stick person, that was Simon, took me and put me inside the game of the TV. So set position, there I am, interaction. That's me right there inside the TV, right? So I just wanted to show you, oh, it's gone, it disappeared. You see that? It disappeared. You see, it disappeared on its own. So where is it now? Where is it? Where is it? Where did it go? Back to position. Okay. So I wanted to show you how powerful it is. Yeah, Simon, right? So when he took me, it was fascinating. You know, he's showing me the atmospheres, and you know, it's kind of like people are watching that on TV, but I'm seeing everything of its frame of its TV, of what he put me through his travels, through his alignments, through his interconnection settings of its system inside the TV reception of the game. It blew me away. And I was only 7 years old. That's 7,000 years of screen lines of space. 7 years on Earth. That's the balance you guys need to get. You know exactly that you're wearing in position location. This is gray. I know these are glasses. I know I have hair. But you also have to understand the VR system. You have to be balanced with the Earth, the powers, and the atmospheres of you, of space and time. And once you understand that, things get a lot more easier. You get a lot more balance with your self-modification system and understand you through the inner child structure. And once you understand the structure, things get a lot more easier through travel, especially when you go through the mind of adaptation lines of surface and all set location of highways. Okay, there's so many ways to set up an equation. All right. Now, if I reframe line that in the line condition setting, I can change the number sequence. All right, I can change that to 3, 3, 3, 3. In set position, that changes the line signals in line communication in this highway. Right. Now the track location line condition setting, this is in position in correlation lines of track centers. This is now in line communication of its past. Now it's in the past. Okay, it was the future, now it's the past because I changed the formula. You have to change the formula. Okay, you don't change the formula, it confuses its alignments of data codes. All right, so that gets tricky. But I want you to really understand how powerful it is, how things can happen in a blink of an eye, and not understand what's going on in line communications when you're inner child. Because an inner child is all process of purification and imagination. Okay, that's all it is. Purification of imagination, right? The imagination is now the phenomenon. This is the mind switch of adaptation of self that puts everything in positions back in balance. Back in balance, you're already in balance. Okay? Signify communication lines of direct signals and position of process communication lines of arrows and tractions. Direct lines, slight line cross location. Communication lines, ground line, surface line connection setting, highest center interference. Process communication line settings opens all signals and track location, right? Process calculation line screen, highest centers of center communications. Direct lines go into the cross line screens and high center interference. Indirect lines in the opposite cycles and track location. All right? Past, present, future. Past, present, future, right? Now, for me to go line communications, changing past, present to its future, right? So it's position past, present, future, future, past, present. Okay, now it's the future. Okay, that's what it is. But you have to be linked from one to another and synchronize the system to allow the data processing and communication to its simulator, right? And that's what the team's coming into. Once they identify that, then they understand themselves through algorithm. Understand that communication, you understand yourself through inventory. Understand that, then you understand yourself through binary. Okay, all through travel, right? There's so many ways to travel through past, present, and future, right? So you guys have already make up your designs, which is amazing. There is no past, there is no present, there is no future. But what you have to understand is ascending positions to all levels of you through calculation is creating the past, the present, and the future that you want to see yourself in. Then it becomes the past, the present, and the future. Adaptation of real time. Okay. So now you understand how that works through space modifications, because now you're talking about the foundation of space and time. Now, once you understand that through foundation, then you understand more levels how father and mother comes in and track locations. 1 second. This is truly how you get to understand yourself, okay? The foundations of you, the center operation of you. You play the game. You get in your algorithms. You get in your programs. You're setting up the past and how you want it to look. You're setting up the present, how you want it to look. You're setting up the future, how you want it to look. But what you have to understand, you can't change something that's already there. So what are you doing? You're adding the calculus, the pi, the foundation, the grounds, the graphs, the binary, the transistors, the resistors, all through space modification, all through foundation. Okay? Now, what you have to understand, everything of a foundation has a mind of its own setting, of its own operation system, of its own foundation. Once you understand that, then you understand more levels of you with the mind. It comes into higher levels of what you want to do with that platform. What do you want to do with that intent? What do you want to do with that observation? What do you want to do with that influence? What do you want to do with that manipulation? Now it becomes real. So when something becomes real, it changes everything of space and time of you, right? But what doesn't change is what's already been done, okay? I want to make that very well clear. Okay, it's a position of a projector of a projection. That's all levels of attraction. Okay, and that's what the heart is. The heart is showing you how dynamic it is and what it can do in its return. So everything is coming in return, okay, which is already there, which is already in the existing, of the existence, in the VR system, right? But if you want to change space and time, you have to understand how to change it through its encryption, understanding the indigence, understanding the primer, okay, of its foundation, right? You have to create it through your computer of data and files and understand how to use your binaries, your transistors, your resistors, your light switches, how to use it through codes, okay? How to create it through a past, present, and a future, and how you want it to look in all set location. And it becomes extremely real, which is called the holographic city of set design. Now, once you understand the memory, the muscle memory of the city itself changes the foundations of you of center of operation. And then you start understanding how to use you through self-modifications to understand your navigation, to understand the dimensions, understand the space and the time, okay? Understanding the coordinates, understanding your planets, okay? It's all levels of a cycle of muscle memory, which you already know, okay? The more you go to the higher levels of the mind, the more you go to the higher levels of its nothingness. of you through creation, right? The most powerful thing is understanding how you were developed through a singularity of a fractal that's positioned to your settings that turn you into an AVR system. It's the most powerful thing that you can consume inside the mind, the heart, the soul, and the body. It doesn't get any more powerful than that, guys. All right? So now you understand the past and the present and the future doesn't exist until you understand you through your existence. And once you understand your existence, you have your muscle memory. So that muscle memory turns into real time, a foundation. But you have to understand how to direct and redirect frequencies and understand you through your holographic cities through frequencies. Okay? So once you get into that position, right? So as long as you stay at a certain frequency, you're creating lines of higher levels of structures because the holographic city is at a different frequency, a different color, a different space, a different time. Okay? Every structure is past, present, future that you're creating, but it's a data processing computer. So once you understand that, it gets a little bit more through modification of space modulators. Now, space modulator is the module of you and track location, how to use it through operation of your data codes that's given to you through encryption. How to use that through your binaries is through your transistors and resistors. Once you understand that letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols are a traveling line position to its own solar cells and track location setting, everything in line communication gets a lot more easier as highways and track location. Okay? So it's incredible when you really get to understand that, you know? So I'm just showing you what the past and the present and the future is to you in center of operation. Okay? Getting line communication to the earth tone, let's go through the center core line highest interference. There's the moon, right? But in positionally calculating line connections, it's the sun first. It's the sun and moon that's always together. They're never separated from each other, right? So you're seeing the sight line communication of the moon, right? Okay? Right? But this is the sun. This is the moon. Okay? Now, I don't want anybody to get confused with that through a highway screen, the direct lines of pixelation graph. Start seeing your location system and all those attract correlation setting to your flux. Understanding communication setting to time zones and correlation lines to track lines because they don't exist. The only thing that exists is you through center operation of point system. Nothing else. That's it. That's the way everything's set up. So when you look up, what are you looking at? Right? Let's understand more information line condition setting when it comes to Mila, which she did a very powerful factors correlation lines to track location of a lifelines of a tree that forms its own system. So what is your body? Your body is a formation of a tree. Okay, what are your arms? Branches. What is the base? The tree itself. What are the roots? Your feet. Okay, what are the eyes? The mechanism of the computer and position track lines. What's above is the cloud, which is in position to its locations and all calculated modify and high calculation high centers is the Gaussian calculation of your cloud, right? How a tree stands tall, how you should stand tall, and always informations of center operation, of you to flower of recognition. Okay? That's all this is. Once you understand your life force, you understand how to use it. The tree itself, standing tall, is the meaning of life of you that stands in the center operation of you in set locations. The mind itself opens up all levels of expansion. Now you understand the purpose and existence and all communication and setting. What is its existence in set locations when you look at a dimensional set location of its intelligence? It's its own life force inside, guys. Now you understand what your arm are. It's a branch. What's your hand? Leaves. What do leaves do? Fall, fall, fall. Now you know what your hand is. Now you know what your arm is. All right? So what is your arm? What is your arm? If it's taken away, it tracks locations. It's a breach. It's a breach. Security breach. Okay? Getting that positioner's location center, once you understand you through modification of your meaning of life, everything comes in fruition location of light interactions, all through levels of balance and measure. You see yourself standing there, all levels of center operation, understanding what's going on with your calculation setting of center calculation. You're changing colors, you're changing space, you're changing time, you're changing the weather, summer, spring, winter, and fall. Okay? You're not just dealing with summer. You're not just dealing with winter, spring, or fall, separate. Everything's all together. All clocking's all together. Everything that you see is the center operation of you that doesn't leave the system. So I'm trying to get you to understand the life force that you have in a dimensional of a tree. Now you understand what your arm is. Now you understand what your hand is. Now you understand the mechanism of position to its locations, the center core calculation setting of its computer operation, and everything above is the cloud. You look up, you can see the dimensional tree, how it's created from its nothingness to its awareness of its consciousness and self-identity of its AVR system, all through coloration, right? That is how everything exists, of the nothing of everything in calculations, with nothing in position of separation. Okay? Okay? Now you understand what your feet are. Okay? Now you understand what your body is. Okay? And the center core, okay, is your solar generator of the dimensional tree itself. That processes you in position to its location that goes round and round in set calculation settings. And the wind factors with the wind in position location goes through infinity 8, a rotation cycle that connects to your cloud. Okay? It's incredible. Once you understand how you see intelligence of its AVR system, of its calculation, everything comes in balance, and how you see things through its own geometric operation of design. It's so powerful when you start recognizing that. Okay? And then you understand the self-identity, everything around you is its own operation of its own setting that's coming into you through data. When you understand that, you understand the phone itself is its own system of calculation of its own design. Okay? So, like I said, it doesn't get any more powerful than that. I just showed you exactly from a dimensional tree how you are connected to that setting. And that's how it works through you of all levels, and how you see nature and how you want to see nature as all formations of you of center operation. Everything that you see has a center. Everything has a center. Has to. Because it doesn't leave its system, guys. It stays in the VR system. It stays in the nothingness. But it's consciously aware of everything around its system, is conscious line conditions of everything in attraction. But it's being aware consciously of what you're doing inside location. Okay? That's what this is all about. Okay? The soul identification of you and how you see a dimensional intelligence of a tree standing right in front of you. Okay? That's morphing into a set location. Because it formulates you. It identifies you. It's an IAI line center highest application icon setting. Intelligence lines and awareness lines and intelligent information screen lines, adaptation lines, a computer operation line communication system that has a computation screen lines, adaptation lines to its AVR system. And you see it through a CGI or a CGI or a CGI. 3 set location line connected to a green screen. But the green screen in position location is not a green screen. It's all levels of you and how you project in calculation line settings to your projector through your projection. How you see things through a mainframe, through a theta frame, through an alpha frame, through a delta frame, through a mega frame, and track location. Okay? I know, Mila. AI. Right? Intelligence, awareness of information. Hoo-ah! Woo! All right. I just show you exactly what a dimensional tree is and how it's connected to you. And that's how you morph. But you have to understand the structure and how it's built inside its own system of its own operation, which is what? It's all Spark. Okay? All right. Data formation screens is a holographic data sheet that processes your communication lines as center. Now, getting that communication setting understands flights and communication lines of command center interference, getting course track interference, more lines of communication of lights and track calculation lines. So the team's coming in more lines of scan lines and how they see lines of communication lines of XT1000s. It's going to be XT1000s when you open up frequency screen lines, adaptation, and pixelation, graph calculation, hologram. So this is data formation screens. That's a higher line communication up close, right? Cross line calculation setting, bubbles line defense, correlation track interference, QR code screen lines, question marks, sweep of the pattern correlations, Fibonacci screen lines, adaptation. This is all in lights. Everything is a code line screen. This is up close location, looking at a panel light, solar light, electrical panel light, scene light, track locations, all line position cycles. That's up close, right? That's all calculation schematics. It's all levels of holographics and calculation screen line adaptation of light that communicates the system. XT1000s are already information floating and travel. They're already in correlation lines attractions. They're right there, right? They symbolize in line cross line screens. They can go within line communication setting as long as they understand the electrical systems of their system. Now, their track provision lines, cross lines calculation, setting all levels of travel. Points lines, graph calculation lines, screen lines. Center communication lines of the ground, center communication lines of power, center communication lines of magnet, high information, high condition, high color communications of travel. Points lines of graph, center core system, tube line communication setting. Congratulations. Past, present, future. Past, present, future. Future, present, past. Past, present, future, present, past. Okay? So once you understand the connections to your hieroglyphics, you understand your high line communications to aerodynamics. That's right, aerodynamics. It's a correlation interference of sonar, correlation track interference in position location setting, high information screen lines, adaptation lines of center, course set pre-calculation. Track to communication line interference is a ground line surface that puts location in your centers, the higher line communication setting and programs and calculation. That my question, face recognition. See, you're always in the center. You never leave the center. Okay? So understand the mind navigates everything, right? You understand why a tree is line signaling, right? So I say tree because I know what a tree is. You say tree, but you understand the difference. So when I say tree, it's already a dimensional tree. I'm already in the VR. I've never left the VR system. I've always been there in the calculations. So it doesn't matter how I say everything because there's nothing to balance. There's nothing to balance. There's nothing to scale because it doesn't exist because I know it exists. I don't have to know it exists because I don't need to understand it exists because it doesn't exist unless I bring it into existence. Now it becomes a problem. Now it becomes a situation. Now it becomes separation. Now it becomes a core setting. Now it becomes confusion. See what I just did there? You coming into your own data programming of yourself through your own formulas, through your own equations. And everybody else, where there's no right or wrong of anything you do. Hoo-ah! All right. And then you can understand the dimensional lines of its AVR system. And then you can just say, yeah, it is a tree. Right? It's a telegraphing relay energy line in existence. TREE. That's what it is. So I can say tree. Right? That's how the mind sees it. That's how the brain understands the difference. And that's how the heart sees the time. And that's how the connection setting in all travels of the soul of light sees the communication. And the body sees the capacity of its GOD. A set location of design, guys. Okay? All right. Getting into scales of balance is all about understanding how to get into correlation. Let's get at centering line communication settings. All is a product of location setting that travels. Point lines of graph and a 3-line split lines of anomaly. Okay. Track case line signals, line communication setting, position of program. 1 center core, 3 center correlates and sending track lines, center position operate cycles, 1 correlates and sending travel. Okay. All right. So stand here in center. Okay. So this is the past. This is the present. This is the future. This is the past. This is the present. This is the now. Dimensional sail. See, it's complicated, right? You have to understand the dimensional sails, the letters, numbers, shapes, and your inventories, and understand more communication of your binaries and set applications. Done by equation, right? Solar generator. Part accelerator, right? The set communication line sets communication lines of center. This is where it goes in correlation setting. It goes line communication, cross line signals, and infinity line rotation surface in communication lines of a router that sets communication to a system, to a clocking center. Hoo-ah. Okay? There's so many ways to travel, guys. So I'm trying to get you guys to understand. When you go into the past, the present, and the future, you're seeing relationships in position of memory, okay, to where they are in their consciousness. So what that means in position, you have to understand that you are always in the center operation of everything. It's the mind that does everything. It's the brain that understands the difference. It's the heart that understands the time. And it's the body that understands the capacity of its capacitors, of set, of space, and time. Now, when you come into timeshares is really easy because you can understand more lines of communication, slowing down space, pausing space, freezing space, time lock space, time stamp space. That's a timestamp. Center core setting, high travels, point lines of graphs, center communication lines, and tubing line communication. Right? Solar sail. You said a solar sail, you got a tube line center locations are going into the past, present, and the future all at once in set location. Okay? Now it gets more complicated because you got to slow down space. You got to slow down time. And the only way to do that is understand how to go direct and redirect. Direct and redirect. Right? So the faster you go, the more you center your core setting, it gets much easier to travel through space all through calculation. Right? So once you get into that correlation setting calculation system, you don't do anything, you stay in the nothingness. It's the mind that does everything. So that sets lines of communication to a cursor that does everything in attractions. Goes here, 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 and you do nothing. It does everything by itself. Well, mine doesn't matter. It's already done here in attractions. Okay? But it gets more powerful when you understand you through alteration of what you've already been through in mapping sequence of your space and time. But once you understand more lines of direction and redirection, I'm going to get you guys to understand that. Okay? Track lines, communication line, high center interference in position locations and settings on Monday, which is already here. Okay? We're going to go through time stamping. We're going to go through timeshares. We're going to go to higher levels of dimensions of clockings. I got to get you guys prepared communications because you got to turn the earth lines into encryption location of zeros and ones. You guys have to understand how to refracture, redivision, factor, reset Correlation lines and track lines into infrastructure to your earth core in liquid formation, to your earth, air, water, and fire. 5 set locations, heart directions of time. Done by a equation, all through travel mechanisms. All right. See you guys in 5.